Pauline! Polyushka! Well, what a beast! Where does she always wear it? Nina Ivanovna lamented. Which once a day trying to find a little pest Polechka, his favorite. The orphanage Ochag was located in a very picturesque place, on the border of two regions. There were children in it. A little and lived all as one and friendly family. Nina Ivanovna, senior educator of the shelter, did not have her children and gave all her love and warmth to the kids. Left without parental care. Many children had families in which they were not loved, were not expected. Paulina was different from other children. Her parents were refugees from the Union. Once republics. They did not have their own housing, they wandered around removable corners. To work without. Registrations were taken reluctantly. There was a catastrophic lack of money even for the most necessary things. Charter. From a beggarly existence, the father began to often apply to the bottle. No, he didn't bully. I didn't swear, I just got drunk and the next day I went to work gloomy and silent. One day he didn't come home at all. While working as a bricklayer at a construction site, he fell from a height and died. What then? It was with Paulina's mom. She couldn't imagine living with a kid on her paycheck. While renting a house. When they were kicked out of the apartment for non-payment, she just came into custody and handed her daughter over to an orphanage, promising that by obtaining citizenship and getting a decent job, take the baby back. She asked very much not to deprive her of parental rights. She loved her daughter. At first, she often visited the baby, even brought sweets and toys. This went on for about 2 years. My darling, I am a citizen of Russia and now I can work in your specialty. Hang on a little longer, you'll have to settle down. Good economists are always needed. This is not washing dishes in a cafe, a completely different income, she reassured the girl at the last meeting. And then something terrible happened. Paulina noticed from the evening that Nina Ivanovna somehow looked at her strangely during dinner. Paulina even thought that her eyes filled with tears and she was ready to burst into tears. Mom, Nina, are you in grief? The girl asked after supper to your favorite teacher. Well, what are you, dear? No grief. I just got a speck in my eye, but I can't get it out, the woman lied to the pupil. And even smiled a little. Mom, Nina, you have not forgotten. What is my birthday tomorrow? Tomorrow Mom will come and bring a big cake, she promised me. Suddenly Nina Ivanovna broke away from her place and ran along a long and noisy corridor, loudly stamping the heels of her new shoes. As you wish, Anna Maximovna, but tell her yourself. I can't. She is expecting her mother tomorrow, and my eyes are wet. Yes, I'm next to her. I can't help but cry, Nina Ivanovna whispered to the headmistress so that no one would hear. Nina Ivanovna, you are, first of all, a teacher. And get yourself together. Strictly. Answered Iron, in appearance, a woman. Let's wait a couple of days. Let not. At least on your birthday. The teacher pleaded, with the tip of white work robe, wiping the welling tears. And how do you imagine it? The girl is not 5 years. This is a couple of years ago. We would have been lying that my mother did not come to the birthday party because she was sick or I was not allowed to leave work, and now cellular communication and parents call their children on a common phone. Here. Tomorrow she will sit by the phone all day and wait for a call from her mother. Mom won't come and we'll call. What will you tell her? Okay then. Not tomorrow, even a day later, but we must do it. Well, she didn't die after all, the headmistress said loudly, and only now did she see the door. A girl holding her favorite bear in her hands. My mother won't come to the birthday party? She got sick? The little girl asked softly, clutching the old plush toy even tighter to her chest. Let's go, my dear. I'll explain everything to you. You are already a big girl and you can understand me, she said. Nina Ivanovna, taking Polechka by the hand and trying to leave the office of the director of the shelter as soon as possible. They walked silently down the endless corridor. It seemed that there would be no end to this narrow tunnel, painted with dark green paint. Arriving at the teacher's room, Nina Ivanovna pushed the old, heavy door and invited the pupil to enter. Let's talk here. No one will interfere with us, the head teacher suggested, and seating Pauline on an old leather sofa and pulling a chair up to it, she looked long and hard into the girl's eyes. You know, baby, there are situations in life when a person cannot decide for himself what or who is dearer to him. He thinks what is right, but in fact, this is a big and unforgivable mistake. You don't judge your mom right away. Maybe now it will be hard for you to accept what I tell you. But in time you will understand and accept her decision. The point is your mom got married and moved away to another country. Not because she wanted to leave you, but because she was very. It's hard to be alone all this time. And now she is next to a kind, decent and wealthy person who helps her in everything with which she feels protected. She is, in fact, didn't leave you, she wants to settle in a new place, and then you'll go to her. Is that correct? Are you mad at your mom? It was difficult for the girl to accept all this at once. There was horror in her eyes. She didn't even cry, she just sat there staring at one point with an absent look, clutching a bear, which, as if he could protect her from a cruel and unjust world. She won't come again, she said softly. Girl! She will have another daughter or son, and now I am a draw, I am a shelter. She somehow looked at the teacher in a very adult way and added, Don't leave me, Ninotchka Ivanovna. Well, at least you don't leave me. The head caregiver has worked at the orphanage for almost 20 years and has seen a lot. But such an adult and deliberate look, still a little girl, is not to be seen. Had to. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She pressed her small, bright head to her breast and said, I will never leave you. You are my firefly. And now let's go to the city and choose you the most beautiful cake. It's your birthday tomorrow. Let's not think about the bad. Went? The girl put her small hand into the teacher's hand and confidently walked beside her. 11 years of school flew by quickly. Of a little girl with fair ones, slightly curly hair, Paulina turned into a pleasant, young lady with a mop of thick, dark blonde hair, regular features, and a beautiful figure. At graduation from school, only Veronica was more beautiful than her, a girl from a family of military doctors, whose parents died as a result of their professional activities. The girls were friends since childhood and helped each other. Dark-haired, brown-eyed Veronica had a tough temper and often stood up for a friend if she was offended. That's all. Soon we will be thrown out of this almshouse into a big and cruel world about which we know almost nothing, shared her Veronica's fears with her friend. Why cruel? And suddenly there, behind the gates of the orphanage, is a cheerful and carefree life, where there are no restrictions, edifications, teachings, and others. Trouble? Paulina suggested in thought. Wait and see, replied thoughtfully Veronica. She then knew that beyond the gates of the shelter awaits them complete uncertainty. Veronica was given to the orphanage as a 12-year-old, sad and self-contained girl. She still could not understand and forgive numerous relatives who could not or did not want to take her with you. For her, it was a terrible ordeal. Death of parents, loss of all ties with the outside world, from which she was simply deleted. Grandmother is a tough and principled lady. Thought that the state would raise her granddaughter better than she did. She was initially unhappy with her marriage. An only son with a girl not from their circle. She did not love her granddaughter, she simply endured. The girl was. She looks like a mother and a grandmother. A couple of times made the reservation that she is not able to love half-heartedly. Plebeian, even though she is her granddaughter. Relatives from the mother's side were people at all another class. They lived in the countryside far away in Siberia. Grandmother was not alive, but grandfather and aunt did not dare to take a girl from a big city to them. They were ashamed of their simplicity, and Veronica. She did not burn with the desire to leave for this dark corner, as her arrogant, metropolitan grandmother used to say. Paulina is her first and most devoted friend from the orphanage. They are right away. Agreed. We sat for 5 years at the same desk at school, lived in the same room, and only interests were different. Veronica loved a quiet pastime. She read a lot, embroidered, or making origami out of printer paper. Paulina was more mobile and liked to work out. Sports. She was the champion of the shelter in running and skiing. You feel good after the parents left the apartment. Almost in the center, what kind of relatives? Although, with such, it's better than none, Paulina reasoned. Knowing in advance that it shines, at best, a hostel at some factory or school. Beggarly life and eternal reminders about her orphanage past. You are also entitled to an apartment by law, Veronica wanted to cheer up her friend. Oh, don't be ridiculous. Well, I'll get some kennel in 3 years. Before that, where do I go? The university does not. I will act, study is not mine. You won't be able to find a good job without education. If you get at least some kind of education, then what to live on while you study? That's about light, but answered Paulina, and in her huge, blue-gray eyes reflected such anguish and hopelessness that Veronica wanted to hug her and say something very warm and so promising. Wait, we can temporarily live in my apartment. We had, though not a huge, like a grandmother, but quite a decent apartment with a living room and 2 bedrooms. Lord, why? I didn't think of that right away. Yo ho ho! We will live together and we are knee-deep in the sea. Laughed and Veronica jumped, hugging her beloved girlfriend. That would be great. Somehow, not believing his. Good luck, Pauline said. Well, it can't be bad for me. Father died. My mother is all about me. Forgot. At first I also wrote for my Canada. I even promised to pick it up soon. And now she has 2 more children, a new life in the last letter I received 3 years ago, where she unambiguously. She made me understand that in this life I need to somehow equip myself. Veronica, that's what's in me. Not so, even if my own mother abandoned me for the sake of a comfortable and well-fed life. I swear to you, no matter what happens to me, no matter what trials fall on my shoulders, I will never leave my children. Already with tears in her eyes, Paulina finished her fiery speech and burst into tears completely. Veronica's grandmother, Irina Georgievna, met her granddaughter coldly and, without even offering to go to the apartment, said that the parents' apartment is still occupied. And the lease ends in 2 weeks. Where are we going to live these 2 weeks? Indignant to the message of grandmother Veronica. Us? And who else do you want? Settle in the family nest? Do not forget that you are only registered there and have rights to this apartment. You don't have. I am the owner. So forget the word we. And you can temporarily live with mine. Au pair, she's just renting a room. Don't worry, I'll pay for the room, Tone. Brooking no objections, said the Iron Lady and thrust a note into her granddaughter's hands indicating addresses of rented accommodation and phone number of a hostess. Yeah, now, so I listened. Don't worry. Polechka. Let's break through. We are orphanage, and this is not a status, this is a lifestyle. Said cheerfully. Veronica began to dial the number of the landlady. Good afternoon. I am the granddaughter of Irina Georgievna. She to me said that I would stay with you until the moment my parents' apartment was vacated, politely. The girl stated the essence of the question. Yes, I just got Irina Georgievna called. You can come now. I have a day off today and I can show you to your room. The girls went to the address of the apartment, not even counting on the fact that the hostess would accept them with open arms in both. If she says she can accommodate just me, then I'll slam the door and leave. We will parakandayutsia, in extreme cases, in some rooming house, self-confidently said Veronica. The door to the apartment was opened by a middle-aged woman. A very pleasant woman. Are you from Irina Georgievna? Come through. Kids! And she seemed to be talking about only one girl. Well, nothing. There is a sofa bed in the room. There is enough room for everyone, the woman said very affectionately and sincerely and led the girls into the room. The room was small but very comfortable. White wallpaper and a small flower expanded the space and made the room bigger. A large, Bel-Air sofa was covered with a soft, shaggy rug and on it sat a huge, white bear cub, similar to Umka from the cartoon of the same name. Round. An old table on one powerful leg, which diverged on 4 sides, as if a huge paw of a terrible beast was covered with a plush, purple-fringed tablecloth. In the center of the table was beautiful vase with wild flowers. You like? With? The lovely woman asked with a smile. Yes, very. Everything is so simple and, at the same time, with taste. What is your name? Veronica asked. Oh, sorry, I didn't introduce myself. Faith. Semyonovna, you can just Vera. Why are you two? Irina Georgievna did not mention. About the second guest, the hostess asked, straightening the folds on a shaggy plaid. Vera, Don't tell Grandma I'm not alone. This is my friend from the orphanage. She has nowhere to go. Go! You understand how difficult it is to get an apartment now, even if you is required by law. Even to find a room in a hostel, you either need to enroll somewhere, study or work. Well, isn't she supposed to live at the station? Veronica said pleadingly. Of course I won't. I'll put the kettle on and we'll drink tea with homemade biscuits and plum jam. There were so many plums that year. I have a garden outside the city. Here she retired and twice in. I help Irina Georgievna around the house for a week, and then I leave for the garden. So I'll be even more relaxed. If you look after the house, Motherly said warmly. Vera Semyonovna went into the kitchen to put on the kettle. On the very first day of their stay with a kind woman, Nina Ivanovna called to find out how the girls settled in Veronica's apartment. Having learned about their misadventures, the teacher immediately promised to use all her connections to help Paulina find a job and at least some housing. My dears, you understand me correctly. Grandma will not let you live together in Veronica's apartment if it is her property. If she was initially hostile even towards her own granddaughter, what can I say? About a stranger? Nina Ivanovna lamented, and she was right in her fears. By the end, second week of the girls living with a kind hostess, Irina Georgievna called and in an authoritative voice ordered her granddaughter to move into the vacant housing. And then she added that no orphanage. She will not tolerate a host in her apartment. Baby, and you live while I have. I won't take. You pay a fee, and you just water the flowers and feed Marussia while I'm at the dacha, Vera suggested to Paulina. While Veronica was packing her things for the move, Vera Semyonovna went to work, and then immediately went to the country. Returned home on the eve of the work shift. Paulina was lonely. And it's sad to be alone all the time in an empty apartment, where from living beings, only she and the old cat Marussia. 3 days after Veronica's departure, Nina Ivanovna called Paulina and said in a joyful voice that she had found her an excellent work in a cafe as a waitress. Baby, the director of the cafe is our former pupil. She is wonderful and I am sure you will make friends. But you need to work honestly and conscientiously, so that I don't blush for you, the teacher announced sternly and sent the address of the cafe and the name of the owner. Paulina is scared on the first day of work. Worried. Nervously fingering the edge of the white apron, she appeared in front of the full and smiling hostess of the establishment. Svetlana, she introduced herself loudly and fervently. Lady and held out her hand to Paulina for a greeting. Paulina, the girl answered shyly and lightly squeezed the headmistress's plump hand. Don't be afraid of anything or anyone. Public. We have a decent one. There are no fights and from the incidents there is only an accidental spill. Coffee on tablecloth or client. The second one should be avoided, she noted admonishingly. Svetlana walked merrily to the center of the hall, where, behind the bar, the cute bartender Kirill was placing a new batch of beautiful bottles of alcohol. Kirill, you are responsible for the new one. Don't scold. Do not interfere, but you can help, the woman said with enthusiasm and hid behind the door to the office. In the first week, Paulina was terribly tired. By the end of the shift, her legs refused to obey her, and there were more and more clients every day. The cafe was not far from the city beach, and the beach season was in full swing. Well, Paulina, you have been working with us for 6 months, and I can only say one thing. You are a wonderful person and an irreplaceable worker. And on your birthday you will have a surprise. On! The mistress of the kingdom of cocktails and excellent coffee ended her congratulations on a solemn note. Svetlana, you intrigue me. What's the surprise? Paulina asked excitedly. Which, for the first time in her life, on her birthday received so many gifts and sincere congratulations. I have no right to divulge a secret. Here now. Mother Nina will come and you will find out everything. Svetlana reported cheerfully, constantly looking at that. At the clock, then out the window. Here I am. The beloved pupil of Paulina and Svetlana entered the banquet hall. Old woman just shone from within. There was so much warmth and love for her former pupils in her. My dear girls, it's a bright day today, even though it's raining outside. Polyushka, happy birthday to you. I was in such a hurry to complete all the formalities by this day, and I got it. I don't know how to say. Tomorrow you'll go see your new apartment. I wrote. In all instances, and Svetochka helped me. Well, you can't do it like that. It's not godly to leave the orphanage. Going nowhere. So, your first home has been reclaimed. And if you want to improve or expand it, this is already your efforts and conscientious work. At the end of it, simple but such warm speech, Mother Nina burst into tears. Ma'am Ning, you are a magician. You are my kind fairy godmother. You are a unique person. Paulina hugged her beloved teacher and wept with her. Well, that's it. Made a swamp here. You have to have fun, and you seem to have buried someone. Kiryuha, let's music. Ordered. Svetlana to the bartender and the first to start dancing, chasing the laminate with thin heels. The apartment that Nina Ivanovna bought for her ward was not particularly comfortable. And convenient location. Sleeping area, standard Odnishka with a balcony and a tiny kitchen. But for Paulina it was a mansion. Accustomed to living for many years with roommates in an orphanage and hostess in Vera Semyonovna's apartment, she was glad of any housing, even in the basement, and here is the second floor of a 5-story brick building. Near the park, playground, and clinic. Before work no more. Half an hour by tram or bus. Even the old furniture remained in the apartment from the previous owners. A creaky sofa, a large chair slightly leaning to one side, a desk, and an antique wardrobe. Times of the USSR. The apartment was clean and urgent or major repairs were not required. Well, I don't want to live. Nina Ivanovna rejoiced, examining the new housing. Along with his pupil. Mom Nina, you are closer to me than my mother. Now! Both territorially and emotionally. Doesn't call or write at all? Preoccupied. Asked the governess, and, lowering her head, as if she were in it, what? Then indirect guilt, hugged her ward. No, it's like I don't exist at all. I am the first. For a while I tried to somehow improve relations, called, but a man always came up to the phone and said, in English something like not at home, busy, what to convey? Maybe something happened to Mom. Don't they tell me? Or maybe I just became an unnecessary, uncomfortable memory from the past. Life? The girl thought thoughtfully. Do not think about it. Just live and rejoice. The kind woman advised and left the apartment. Young woman. Yes, I'm calling you. How is this not your table? I want my coffee. It is from your hands and not from anyone else. A man of years called the waitress cheerfully. 30 in a badly ironed, fashionable shirt. He came to the cafe often and always sat down at the same table to drink your strong coffee without cream and sugar. This table was served another waitress, but he always called Paulina and did it in such a cheerful, flirtingly intriguing manner that the second waitress, seeing him, said to Paulina, "Oh, your client has arrived. Tint your lips, straighten your curl and, with a gait from the hip, march with a step." The entire staff of the restaurant and some regulars were already making fun of their platonic relationship. Clients. If Paulina served someone from the regulars, then they. With some degree of irony, they warned, "And here is your client. Run, darling, otherwise he will again devour you with his eyes and shout at the whole hall, trying to get your attention." The young girl was a little tense. Attention, but Arthur, that was the name of the persistent client, always had a new joke in store. A small present for your favorite waitress and a generous tip. Over time, this has turned into a romantic game in which Paulina and Artur were the main characters and their daily sparring has become a feature of this institution. Each time receiving a tip equal to the cost of a good supper, Paulina would say, "You are spoiling me," and would leave with an uncomfortable feeling like she's stealing from her regular customer. Several times Arthur suggested Paulina take a walk, go to the cinema or have dinner, but the girl politely refused, citing fatigue or employment. The other waitresses often played pranks on them. And the bartender Kirill, who was in love with Paulina, was terribly jealous and frowned when Arthur once again visited their establishment. "Why don't you pay attention to this young man?" Somehow, in a friendly way, the owner of the cafe Svetlana advised. "Have you noticed that he is much older than me? For 10 years, at least, and probably married, and children. There is. Did you notice a child seat in the back seat of his car?" And I immediately noticed. An ordinary womanizer who is tired of family life and wants to try himself as a Casanova. But not. I ran into that one. I don't meet married people, and even old ones, the girl answered cheerfully. Time passed, and all attempts to get to know each other better, and possibly make friends with the intractable. As a waitress ended for Arthur in complete rejection and subsequent disappointment. Before the New Year holidays, returning home very late after another corporate party, Paulina saw in the park, next to the house, a cheerful, drunken company of young people who molested to rare passers-by, laughed loudly, often using foul language. The girl decided to go far sidewalk, so as not to provoke young people to inappropriate actions. Before reaching home, literally 100 meters behind her, the girl heard quick steps and a drunken call. "Madam, why are you so late and alone?" "But what about us? We also want women. Attention and a little love and affection. Let's have a drink together. Let's meet, let's chat." The voice was so unpleasant that Paulina shuddered and she quickened her pace. It did not help. The whole company just ran after her and overtook her on the playground between the clinic and Her home. Dim bulbs under the visors of the entrances made it impossible to see. Young people and, moreover, unravel their plans. Guys, I'm very tired and want to sleep. I have. It was a busy day and I don't have time for entertainment, I tried to explain to the tipsy company. Girl, but this only inflamed their ardor. One of the guys lightly hugged Paulina and tried to pour liquid from an open bottle of alcohol into her mouth. Suddenly, from the darkness of the square to the drunk, the company was raided by a stranger in a jacket with a hood put on his head. 2. Especially active scoundrels, the one who held Paulina and the one who shouted out vulgar sentences. The stranger knocked to the ground with one blow. The third was not so simple, but also fell on the snow. From a kick in the groin. 2 more retreated at first, but abruptly changed their minds and regrouped. Pounced on a stranger from behind. Paulina, run! Only managed. Shout to the defender before receiving a powerful backstab in the kidney area from one of the earlier. Fleeing. He immediately settled down, and the whole crowd rushed to him to tear, destroy, trample. Paulina, running back a few steps, began to call for help. I wanted to call the police. But the phone, apparently, dropped at the scene of the brawl. Someone. People. Kill. Help. Shouted. A girl and some windows even turned on the light, but no one dared to come to the rescue. Somewhere. A siren was heard very close, but it was not clear whether it was an ambulance or the police. The attackers, hearing her, moved away from the man and ran in all directions. God! What have they done to you? On you! There is no place to live! Paulina wailed, running up to her defender. The man's face was thick, filled with blood. It was impossible to determine the age of a man, much less to see his appearance. I am now. I dropped my phone somewhere. We need to call an ambulance and the police, shouted Paulina and rummaged through the snow with her hands, hoping to find the missing phone. You don't need anything. I'm fine. Sometimes they trampled harder and not only with their feet, said the man, and his voice seemed very familiar to the girl. Arthur? Arthur, is that you? How are you here? Arrived at such a late time? The girl was perplexed, trying to raise her admirer. Waiting for you. Here is a feeling of anxiety. It was like something terrible was about to happen. But with whom? All of mine are at home, only you are left, Arthur explained somehow confusedly and incomprehensibly. His stay near Paulina's house. God, you have a phone. Let's call an ambulance and the police from yours. How did I not guess right away? I scolded myself. Paulina for slow thinking and slowness. For a good soldier to call an ambulance and the police. Because of a broken nose? Don't be ridiculous, Polechka. Better shake me off the snow and wish. Good night, although you can kiss, because I drove the hooligans away from you and deserved encouragement, Arthur suggested, already laughing. I am truly grateful to you. I don't know what would. Was with me, don't be near you, Paulina answered with a look full of gratitude. And generally speaking, what are we standing here? Come to me. I will wash you, lubricate wounds and abrasions, clean your clothes. Do not need anything. I'm driving. I literally have 2 blocks to go and I'm at home. Don't bother. Himself, Arthur replied with a refusal and was about to go, when he was jerked to the side and he almost fell on a bench that was dug near the children's sandbox. Well, that's it. Enough heroism. Hold on to me. And if you don't want an ambulance, come to me and decide what to do, Paulina said sternly and led his savior angel to the doors of his entrance. Take off your shirt and trousers, I'll wash it, she ordered Paulina, giving her bathrobe to the guest. And wash yourself, the bath is there. Then I will treat the wounds on your face and hands. Arthur came out of the bath a few minutes. The face and hands suffered significantly in the fight. Showed off on the back of the head. An impressive bump with several abrasions. Don't move. Raise your chin. Cover up. I will treat the eyelid and eyebrow. Paulina gave orders, like a real military man or boss. The turn has come to the hands. The knuckles of the fingers of the right hand were knocked off, a laceration on wrist, a huge hematoma on the chest and shoulder. Doesn't it hurt? Finally no longer ordered. But in a softer tone, the girl asked. I'm used to it. I always have someone periodically. Patched as a child, my grandfather and grandmother, when I broke my knees in the blood or fought with the neighbor's kids. In my youth, the old Dr. Michaelik at the cadet school, where my old people sent me. So that I don't go downhill. And my mother never took care of me. I am stray with her, I never knew the name of my father. I'm not judging her, she's confused. My grandfather and grandmother raised me, and then with my mother, after the Kadetka, we began to live together. Then the army. The 2nd Chechen, wounded and commissioned me, but I didn't disappear anywhere. Soleil. With your peroxide and Lugol, don't be shy. And what is this old scar on the left? Wrist? Combat or from childhood? Paulina asked, putting the vials and vials back in the first aid kit. No, it's me and my friend out of stupidity, back in the army. Done. He was the first to be demobilized, and we were not spilling water. They served in the same platoon. He is from Arkhangelsk, far away. So they made identical incisions on their hands as a sign of eternal friendship. And then somehow they got lost. I wrote to him at the address, and the letters came back. Maybe he wrote to me. But I moved to live with my mother, my grandfather and grandmother died, and in the village I have little use without them. We go to grave with mother. So our paths diverged. I tried to look for him, but the surname Kuznetsov is common and the name Sergei is no better. There are hundreds of thousands of them across the country. Retreated. And then, after rehabilitation for a wound, I went to the school of the Ministry of Emergencies to study. There was no danger in life. Seryoga was the same, risky and bold to disgrace, finished his autobiographical story Arthur and looked at his watch. It's almost midnight, you probably want to sleep, but here I am with my sores and stories, the man said anxiously. Don't you want to? Are you missed at home? I washed my trousers and shirt. But I have absolutely nothing to change you into. Paulina got worried. Afraid that Arthur's wife would make a scene for him. But it was very strange that no one called him. And was not interested in where he was at such a late hour. I understand. Do you think they are already looking for me? Nobody is not looking for me. I didn't tell you everything. After the army, my mother and I did not live richly. Mom can't see well. Can work. She was injured at work. While I was in the army, she was looked after by our Lenka's neighbor. When I left for the army, she was just a girl. She promised me to visit my mother and help her. After a fixed-term contract signed, then the war, in general, did not leave for a year, as promised. When he arrived, he did not recognize Lenka. She became such a fine girl. I was injured. She helped me too. Briefly speaking, our love spawned while I was studying at the Ministry of Emergency Situations School. Mom was so happy. There was no wedding. Signed so. Lena had become pregnant by that time, and later they found out that she was having twins. I don't know how some fathers refuse children. They send their girls for an abortion. My joy was not limit. I didn't walk, I flew. Then he began to work in the fire department and paid well. So, our boys appeared with us, Kostya and Igorek. Funny and exactly the same. Only Lena could tell. They lived together, never quarreled. Mom sold the house of Grandma and Grandpa to us. Bought one. And then I, as a participant in hostilities and wounded, also Odnishku gave a suburb. We sold both apartments and bought a good 3-room apartment. I became the head of the guard. Salary is not bad. Lena was a nurse and worked part-time with massages when the boys grew up. But we wanted a girl so much. Pregnancy immediately somehow went wrong. Doctors said it happens. That the first is normal, but with age. At what age? She was not 30. Difficult childbirth. Placental abruption. Only the baby survived. She's already 3. She is funny. The brothers love her. They are 7. Now you know everything. Arthur finished his speech and lowered his head to his chest, as if in. What happened? He alone was to blame. Where are the children now? Who are they with? You. Didn't they just leave him at home? Stop! Stop! I look like bad. Father? Do I look like a slob or a drunkard? I don't even smoke 'cause you look at these. Fires due to drinkers and smokers, then a lump in the throat not from burning in smoke, but from what he saw. Grandma's children. They are neighbors, my mother and Lena's mother. That's why Lena helped my mother. Now the boys' New Year's holidays have begun. And Ivanovna can't take a step without them. I had to hang all 3 of them on grandmothers, and they are happy. So no one is looking for me today, no one needs me, Arthur concluded, gobbling up both Cheeks biscuits with tea served by Paulina. Then you lie down on the sofa in the room. And I'm on a cot in the kitchen. And no objections. You are a guest and the folding bed is fragile, it will not stand you. Early in the morning, when the guest was still sleeping, Paulina, quickly assembling her temporary bed, ironed his things and cooked breakfast. Wow! 7 o'clock! I'm late for work! Exclaimed Arthur, and began to hurriedly get ready. Arthur, I won't let you go without breakfast. Especially since it is already ready, Paulina warned the guest and put a dish of serniki with sour cream. Yes, I would myself without breakfast. Didn't leave, the man declared cheerfully and threw a cheesecake into his mouth, generously bathing him in sour cream. Around 8, with a container of cheesecakes, Arthur ran out the door and, jumping over the step, crossed 2 floors in a few seconds. Arterchick, where did we spend the night today? Once they came to work in an obscenely ironed shirt, and even with dinner? Sarcastically, the dispatcher Lubotchka asked, having had her eye on the head of the guard for a long time. I don't know where you, Lubotchka, spent the night, but I was with my beloved woman. I have the right, nothing to anyone. Not obliged, and she cooks, unlike you, much more decently. Do you want a cheesecake? Rude. Arthur sent off his admirer. Don't want. With resentment in his voice. Lubotchka refused and went to her workplace. Paulina and Arthur's romance began quickly and unexpectedly. They celebrated the New Year together at the dacha of Arthur's friends, then they chose New Year's gifts together. Children, but Arthur went alone to congratulate the kids. Daddy has arrived! Dad has arrived! The children shouted. When, covered with frost, Arthur stumbled into his mother's apartment. Baba Toja was also there. Mother of his late wife. Yes, these are gifts for grandmothers. Baba Marusia has a warm bathrobe and soft slippers, and Baba Toja has a new kettle with a whistle. And now, kids! Who misbehaved? Who again pulled the cat's tail and scattered corn sticks on carpet? Well, admit it. In a boyish way, loudly and fervently asked the father. Small. Eva lowered her head and wept, I won't be barefoot. I am chaos, I am a Siguraka. The little girl justified herself under the general laughter. Having handed out gifts, which the children immediately took up, Arthur invited his mother and mother-in-law for a private conversation. I have news for you. Baba Toja, I understand. That it, at first glance, will seem to you heavy and unpleasant. I also know that you are intelligent. Man, and you can understand me. Lena has been gone for more than 3 years. I've been faithful to her all these years, and I will keep the memory for the rest of my life, but it's hard for me to raise children, even with your help it's hard. Children should have both parents, someone should replace their mother. I found a wonderful woman, and I am sure that she will cope with this task. If I wasn't sure of that, I wouldn't speak this topic with you now. Baba Toja, you understand and do not judge, he finished in a trembling voice. Conversation Arthur and went into the room to the children. Grandmother sat in the kitchen for a long time. Wept. Drinking tea and talking. There's nothing you can do, Masha. That's life. I initially understood that he would someday find another woman and be happy with her and with children. He deserved it. But why is my heart so heavy? Cried Baba Toja. For some reason, stirring with a spoon the long cold tea. Let it go. Grandchildren will always be yours. We live nearby, but rejoice for Arterchick, he has been like a restless man for 3 years. Then to the clinic with children, then to kindergarten, then to school, and yet he also works in a responsible position. As everybody does it? Mused Baba Marusia, Arthur's mother. Winter holidays are over and the children came back home. Wow! We have new curtains, and in our room such order. Do we have a fairy? Igor asked. The most inquisitive of children. Yes, children. Now a fairy will live with us, which Name is Paulina. The father said fabulously, and a beautiful woman in a smart dress came out of the bedroom. Are you a fairy? Where's your magic wand? Igor asked again. Kostya and Eva stood, holding hands and watching what was happening. Children, Paulina will now live with us. She will try very hard to replace her mother, although her mother, probably, cannot be replaced. She will love you and become your true friend. Don't offend her. The children looked at each other, and little Eva went up to the woman and poked her face into the hem of her smart dress. Dress is the color of the sky on a sunny day. Mom, the girl said softly. Paulina was in tears. She remembered her mother, whom she had not seen for about 15 years. So, who hasn't brushed their teeth again? Kostya, you know that the one who does not brush his teeth catches up with a terrible and vicious caries? No, it's not an evil wizard. And not a brownie. Caustic. You know perfectly well who it is and for what reason you and Dad went to the dentist that week. No! I'll tell Dad. And if you don't listen to me again, you'll sleep with me. Funny. And Mother Paulina joked carelessly with her adopted children. Kostya ran around the rooms, and the girl ran after him with a toothbrush in her hand. Then these morning races flowed, in general fun and complete disobedience. The children squealed, laughed, rode Paulina on horseback, pulled her by the skirts of a long dressing gown and just fooled around. Awakened by children's laughter, Dad did. Feigned stern look and in a rough voice said, who does not like to brush his teeth? He will go to live in Cuba. All the kids wanted to go to Cuba and did not want to go to kindergarten and school. Then Dad drove Kostya and Igorka to class, Eva to the garden, Paulina to the cafe, and he went to put out fires, solve organizational questions. Grandmothers were in the wings. Baba Toja picked up the boys from school and took them to dinner. And Baba Marussia took Eva out of the kindergarten in the evening and the children were reunited in one of the apartments. After, Mom and Dad came and took everyone. Such a rich life seemed to Paulina the most faithful, most thoughtful and happy. The weeks flew by unnoticed. On the weekend, if they all matched, the whole cheerful family went for a walk in the park. I do not believe my luck often loved. Repeat Arthur, when happy and tired, the children fell asleep and they were left alone with Paulina. I don't know if everything in this life is predetermined or not, but it is you who are appointed to me by fate and nobody else. I'm so happy that sometimes I'm scared that happiness is just like that. Is not given to a person, he must pay for it. Paulina remembered this night conversation every evening when she put the children to bed, and now she herself lay down alone on the big bed, marital bed, and cried almost until morning. The tragedy happened just before the weekend in the beginning of the new academic year. Eva went to the 1st grade this year, and the boys went to the 5th. Having unlearned the first week, everyone was promised an unforgettable weekend, especially since September was warm and sunny. On Friday, the children, having come from school, saw that Paul's mother was packing in a large Dad's backpack clothes, tennis rackets, fishing rods, and in the refrigerator, in containers. Different sizes, camping food and canned goods are folded. Paul's mom. Are we going fishing overnight? The quick-witted Igor suggested, while Kostya and Eva were fighting over the ball, which Paulina still Did not have time to put it in one of the sports bags. We're going somewhere. Papa keeps the route a secret. So don't ask me anything. I was told to pack my things, so I'm packing. So go. Wash your hands, we'll have dinner. Let's go to bed early tonight, because it's not light to get up. No, Dawn. You yourself know how fussy and strict our dad is. Smiling and sincerely rejoicing at the joint. Weekend, Paulina shared her plans. Alarm call to landline phone. Sounded closer to 10 in the evening, when the children had already fallen asleep, and Paulina was trying to get through to her husband. Worrying about not being home yet. No, this has rarely happened before. Then an urgent call to a fire that could not be extinguished for a long time or some kind of check. From the head office, for which it was necessary to thoroughly prepare, and once even Arthur got drunk. On the occasion of the birth of a colleague's third daughter. But in such cases, he warned, that will be delayed by a call or wrote an SMS. Ran through your phone, no missed calls. Paulina did not find any SMS messages. Tell me, who am I talking to? Asked the man on the other end of the line. I'm Paulina Zavadskaya. What happened? Who am I talking to? Don't be silent. Paulina began to become hysterical, and her voice. In the receiver he spoke some incomprehensible and empty phrases, such as in the line of duty, brave, firefighter, and a wonderful person and family man. Then she lost consciousness, and the voice on the phone continued to litter with banal phrases about duty, honor, and eternal memory. Arthur was about to get into the car to go home when a disheveled woman ran out of the unit building. Lubachka, and in the voice of a fire siren, screamed that the building of a sports school was on fire, where children are engaged. Equestrian sports. The fire started in the stables. While the horses were being let out, the fire spread to warehouses with food and changing rooms. The fire broke out at the very beginning of training, when children from 5 years and up to adulthood, they changed clothes and could not see that the stable was on fire. There were no locker rooms. Windows. When they smelled burning, all the approaches to the locker rooms were enveloped in a smoke screen. And it was impossible to approach them without equipment. Upon the arrival of the first fire brigades, the building where the children were, was almost completely engulfed in flames. The caretaker Potapik ran with buckets. And 2 instructors, wrapped in damp blankets, tried to pass through a veil of smoke and fire to evacuate the children, but it was no longer possible to go through the main entrance. Back! Back, I said. Do not complicate our work, commanded Arthur as an instructor and supply manager Potapik. The wing with the children's locker rooms, though it was smoking. But the fire did not completely embrace it. The technical exit and the windows of the corridor were visible. While alone, the outfit led the horses out of the stables. Arthur's outfit began to make its way through the smoky corridor to the changing rooms. The children were screaming and crying. The younger ones tried to open the dressing room door, and the elders did not allow them to do so. They wetted their clothes with water and covered themselves and respiratory organs for babies. In the safety classes they were taught this by the old supply manager Potapik. The fire was extinguished by 4 crews and an old fire engine of the forestry, which was located a kilometer from the horse base. The children were taken out one by one. Many required medical help. Children swallowed smoke. And where is Alianka and Artyom? All of a sudden, One of the instructors was alarmed when there were no more children left in the locker rooms. And the first ambulances began to arrive. "Who is this? Weren't all the children evacuated?" asked the head of the guard, and he was seized by an animal fear for the children. This sweet couple is always wandering somewhere. They are still in the younger group. They are 6 years old. More likely. They climb back into the basement. There they have something like a cavalry headquarters. "Kids, what will you take from them?" Through the noise of water in the sleeves, the instructor shouted. "Where's the entrance to the basement? Show not to waste." Time for an explanation. Arthur ordered the instructor. "Let's go. It's on the left wing. Here are the rumors." "We are always looking for them." The instructor shared his fears and experiences. The left wing was almost extinguished, and only in some places small flashes could be seen. But the roof hung over it in one big dome, ready to collapse at any moment. "Vlad, Maxim, come here. Here they can be kids. Lord, if only they were alive. You will ensure me at the exit, and I will try to pass." Down, Arthur called his colleagues and stepped through the still strong, metal door. He was absent. 5 minutes. During this time, the instructors, old Polyushka, and all the firefighters prayed. Even those who did not believe in either God or the devil. "Take it!" Arthur shouted as he got up. Up the steep, iron stairs of the basement, carrying 2 babies at once, hugging them. With both hands and laying their heads on the shoulders, their partners Vlad and Maxim. Having passed. Barely alive children of a fireman, again hurried down. They played with a kitten there, demons. And he slipped out of my bosom at the last moment. He's right here. The smoldering roof collapsed with such a crash that because of the terrible noise and smoke screen, one might think that a shell exploded or an anti-tank mine went off. Like a card. The house was formed and the walls of the entire left wing. Only a powerful iron survived. Jam an open door to the basement. It was immediately clear that the man buried under the rubble could not survive, even if he was at least 3 times a hero, but, nevertheless, almost the entire composition of firefighters. The brigades were immediately thrown into the rubble. Arthur was found almost immediately. He was still alive and squeezed in the hands of a small, red kitten, looking for the last time, from a tarpaulin spread on the ground. Into the darkening, sunset sky, Arthur exhaled and ceased to show signs of life. So they and lay, a valiant warrior and a fireman, more than once sacrificing himself to save strangers' lives, and a small, red kitten, which became an indirect cause of the death of its savior. Paulina almost did not remember the funeral. She fell into some kind of dark abyss of disbelief and rejection. Reality. Only sometimes, returning, she asked Arthur's mother how the children were there and again fell into a deep pit of nothingness. The children were taken by the orphanage mother, Paulina Nina Ivanovna. The boys knew about the tragedy, but they held on as best they could, so as not to upset her little sister, who, playing with dolls, kept asking Kostya and Igorka, "Where is Mom and Dad? Why did they give them to someone else's aunt? Why didn't they go fishing this weekend?" For the first 6 months after the tragic events, Paulina was afraid of only one thing, that the children, she can be taken away. She clung to them like some kind of straw that still keeps her afloat, and connects with that, the happiest of her life. Arthur's mother was completely blind from shock and was completely dependent on Baba Toja, a former matchmaker and good old neighbor. Paulina with children. Spent the whole weekend with them. Stay at home, where you cannot hear the rude and cheerful voice of her husband. Where his toothbrush is no longer in the glass, and on the shelf in the bathroom are not scattered shaving accessories. It was impossible. By the end of February, Baba Masha was also gone. She left quietly at night. In the evening she asked Baba Toja to come to her in the morning to try on. Pressure. Baba Toja never got through, and did not get through. Unlocking the door with your key. Went straight to the bedroom. The face of the neighbor was calm and peaceful. Everything was visible. That she left in a dream and saw her son before leaving. What an easy death. I would like that thoughtfully, said Grandmother Toja, rubbing her spoons after the wake. But I can't, I have children. I promised Arthur that I would never betray them if something happened to him. Strange, why did he then start this strange conversation? So he said, do not betray our children. If, suddenly, for some reason, I can't be with you. Then I still laughed and clicked him on the nose. And a week later he was gone. Paulina cried, and little Eva, going up to her, she suddenly rested her face on her stomach and, clasping her hips, said, You are not a traitor. You are our mother. Today Paulina has a difficult conversation with Svetlana, the owner of the cafe. Making ends meet is getting harder. Work full-time in a cafe. Strength is not enough time. 3 students, Kostya's sports section, Igor's music school. Ivanovna, always ill with a cold. Head spin. Constantly asking for leave from work is already ashamed. Although Svetlana always enters into her position. No, you need to find a job closer to home and school, or find a nanny who would pick up children from school and teach them lessons. Babysitter for salary. The waitresses did not pull. The entire pension assigned to children after the loss of their father goes to extracurricular activities for children and utilities. You need to either save on food or change jobs. I wanted a girl. Determined in swimming, they say it helps a lot with frequent colds and develops the lungs. Need something. Change. You cannot rely on the location of people and always ask for help. Baba Toja passed strongly. And cannot take care of her grandchildren, she herself needs help, thought Paulina on the way to school. Children about. They were talking animatedly, joking with each other, and Paulina was completely lost in her thoughts. Svetlana, I'm sorry. You have done so much for me. I'll be your eternal debtor, but I'm not like that anymore. I feel uncomfortable every time I take time off from work to pick up children from school, or when I take sick leave for another sort of Ivanovna. Yes, finances are tight. I want to find another job so that I can be with the children more, and in my specialty, more financially profitable. I still graduated from the College of Finance and Economics. If the salary will allow, then I can hire a nanny for at least a few hours a day. You are very nice and I will miss you. But you understand me. I can't leave my children, I promised Arthur, and I can't live without them myself. Well, what are you? What grievances? I understand. I can't pay you more. How am I to others? Will explain? but I can enter into your position. And in general, it's great that Arthur forced you then. Study. Let it be in the evening, even after work, but after all, I graduated and defended my diploma perfectly. To be honest, I wasn't sure you could. And you passed everything without triples. Good girl. You are what? While you are looking for another job, work until lunch and take all the tips for yourself. Just how the full salary will come out. And if you find something suitable, I'll let you go without working off. Me and myself. I can still run around the hall, Svetlana said with a smile, and Paulina's soul became a little brighter. The job search has come to a standstill. A woman with no higher education, no work experience, and no one wanted to take children to work. Paulina called and visited so many firms and organizations, which is completely confused. Every day brought new disappointments and failures. Almost a month later, in television advertisements for vacancies, Paulina saw an interesting number. Phone, which consisted of 15s. Wow, what a lucky number. Will it even work here? Thought the woman and dialed the number. A pleasant male voice answered almost immediately. Yes, I need a part-time accountant. We already have an accountant, an old one. Experienced, but it is difficult for him to run around tax and banks, so we take a person to help her. Familiar with finance. Our company has been on the market for 10 years. Though small, but stable company. If you have a bright head and strong legs, we will be happy to accept you to our team, the man blurted out in one breath and set the date and time for the interview. Paulina was restless. She assumed that, having learned about the children, they would not take her again and it would be another disappointment. Come in, they're waiting for you. Smiled, said an elderly woman, apparently acting as a secretary. In a large and bright office, located on the second floor of a tall glass and concrete building. Under the sign Personnel Department sat a young man who, judging by his voice, and spoke with Paulina on the phone. Looking through her papers and smiling enigmatically, he said, I want to warn you right away. We have been looking for someone for this position for months. If you are a vulnerable and touchy person, then I'll say right away, it's better for you not to work here. We are already used to it and do not react to our director, but the new ones, they run like crazy and have not worked for a month, although the salary is an order of magnitude higher than in other firms. So what do you think? Is it worth it? I agree. Yes, I have no choice. Especially not a full-time job, but I have children. Salary is great. And with my psyche, I somehow agree. I have it. Understanding, Paulina tried to laugh it off. You will help us a lot if you don't run away. At least a couple of months. Tatyana Mikhailovna, our accountant, is over 60 and finds it difficult to run for various financial institutions, although she copes with all her other duties on all 100. Yes, and I got used to the director. Did you see our secretary in the hall? Also under 60. Since the beginning of the company's formation here. Nerves are towing ropes. I live on sedatives. But I have nowhere to go. I have 5 girls, a wife and 4 daughters, and we don't have a salary. Offend. Do you know how much just 5 women need? The chief shared his aspirations. Personnel Department Andrei Konstantinovich. I have 3 children and I am a widow. We will stick together. The director won't swallow us 2 at once, Paulina joked sadly, and began to take shape in a new place of work. Chief accountant of the company Tatyana Mikhailovna was a strict woman, but fair in seeing excellent performance and zeal to work in her ward, changed her anger to mercy and began to teach her everything that she knew herself. And you, my dear, are not stupid at all, even if you don't have a higher education. If you will work hard, you can take my place in 5 years, with a bit of irony, but quite affirmatively, explained the chief accountant. I will not be put in your place. I need to finish university. Yes, I am quite satisfied with this work. And the children are looked after. And enough free time. Only I'm so afraid of your director. Your boss scared me. Personnel department. Is he really such a creepy guy? And anyway, where is he? I've been working here for 2 weeks now. But I never met him once, Paulina asked with some anxiety. He's in the hospital. Like spring or autumn, old wounds begin to ache. Former warrior. Him. 2 bullet holes through and a shrapnel in the spine. He needs to be operated on, but he still won't go away. For the operation. That's why evil is forever, that everything hurts. And the ladies of the young generally live with the light. Have us team noticed what? Younger than 40, only Andre from the personnel department. But he is not a woman. I myself do not know much, but my predecessor said that his wife had abandoned him the first time he entered the hospital. Came home, and her aunt Trace is gone. She only left a note that, they say, I am young, so that I can endure my disabled husband all my life. And they didn't have kids either. She thought it was because of him. That's when he became furious, angry at the whole feminine gender. Well, you've come and gone. You won't have much contact with him at work. You may not fall under hot hand. Tatyana Mikhailovna shared the reason for the bad character of the director. Amelia Yurievna. Call me a new accountant urgently. Strictly ordered. Sergei Viktorovich to his secretary. So there is no it. In the morning I left for the bank. Then to the auditors for the results of the audit. Then to the tax office and again to the bank. Her only. You can catch it early in the morning, the elderly woman answered, knowing for sure. Which has already aroused the uncontrollable wrath of the authorities. So call her and tell her that I'm waiting for her in afternoon in my office. Absolutely. With a touch of sarcasm. But Amelia Yurievna quite obligingly promised, and again sat down to solitaire. Amelia Yurievna, I won't have time to come today. I have to pick up the children from school in half an hour. Then feed, go to the music room and run to the pool. I specifically got a part-time job. To have free time. Apologize to Sergei Viktorovich and explain him the situation. Paulina tried to explain. The next morning was gloomy, not only because of the rain. The smell of a thunderstorm roamed the office, and the cause of this thunderstorm was Paulina, who dared to disobey her boss. Wipe off your lipstick, he can't stand all kinds of painted ladies there, advised Paulina. Amelia Yurievna put a wet napkin into her hand. Well, I went. Paulina answered, erasing. With lips, almost colorless lip gloss. A large man sat at a table, fixing his eyes on a pile of documents and accounts. It was already visible from afar that he was dissatisfied and that a deep wrinkle appeared on his forehead, a sure sign of indignation. "Good morning," called the woman asked almost inaudibly. "Yesterday," the man replied rudely and without looking up from the documents. "What yesterday?" "Called yesterday. But we're so busy," that they did not find 10 minutes in their busy schedule to honor a person with their attention. "Who pays you a very good salary?" The strict boss continued his angry speech. Paulina was silent. She wanted to cry right now, to slam the door loudly or, throwing a letter of resignation in his face, to express everything that she and all his entourage think about him. "But, in a week you have to pay for the pool, buy a Gorka new sneakers, and Kostia, plasticine and a new sketchbook. And the communal apartment has grown, and the heel of the last shoes flew off, and the faucet in the bathroom dripped, and so on endlessly. Sorry, Amelia Yurievna didn't get through yesterday. Before me. The phone is old and without recharging every 3 to 4 hours it just turns off. And I spent 2 hours at the bank and the same amount at the tax office. I didn't think that I could call in the afternoon, when my working time was already over, tried to justify the secretary and herself Paulina. Yes, your brains are without recharging. Sit down quickly. And here I establish a working day, and henceforth, so that phones did not sit down and I do not care about their age. If you want to work here, do what I ordered." In anger, the man was uncontrollable. His slightly graying dark hair became damp either from exertion or from the fact that the office was stuffy. "I understood. This will not happen again, I assure you." The woman answered with a wounded sense of pride. "Come here and explain the results to me. Audit check." I didn't quite understand this point, the director asked more calmly, and he pointed with his index finger at a point he did not understand. In the process of explaining, when calmed down, the boss turned over sheets with graphs and tables Paulina saw on her wrist. Director's scar, painfully familiar and dear. "Where did you get it from?" Not in a feminine way, asked sharply. Paulina even turned pale in surprise. "What do you care? I have these on my body. There are dozens of scars and traces of bullets and shrapnel. Should I show you everything?" Paulina, as if under hypnosis, without a shadow of fear, grabbed the director by the hand and turned her wrist towards her. "Like my Arthur. Exactly the same. As if in." Paulina uttered some kind of ecstasy and froze. "Your Arthur? Who is he to you?" "Already?" the chief asked with interest and rubbed the place of the scar. "My husband. He is no more. He died in a fire," Paulina answered, and huge tears welled up from both eyes at once. "How did he die?" "No, it cannot be. I'm the fool. After all, I wanted to find him immediately, upon arrival. He knew he lived here. But fighting, to the hospital. Thundered, then my wife left and I drank black. Then he put the company on its feet. I put everything off. I thought I would get rich and come to Arthur with gifts. Well, wife! Why are you such a fool?" The boss reproached himself, not even noticing how Paulina quietly left the office and disappeared behind the toilet door, so that no one sees her tears. Weeks passed. Paulina never saw again. Your offender. She came to work early in the morning, picked up a package of documents and left. Through the authorities, carrying out the instructions of the chief accountant. The first anniversary of Arthur's death was approaching. On this day, Paulina took a day off and in the morning, having bought flowers, went to the cemetery. Still from afar, noticed a tall, strong, male figure in a dark cloak, standing in the fence. Slowed down. Not out of fear, out of surprise. It was Sergei Viktorovich, her evil boss and her husband's colleagues. Good morning. Early you. I specifically wanted to be alone with him until his colleagues came. According to the Ministry of Emergency Situations, the woman said a little rudely and put flowers on the grave, next to a bouquet of bright red roses. I was guided by exactly the same desire. Well, sorry. I will not bother you. With these words, Sergei said goodbye to Paulina and quickly walked along cemetery alley towards the exit. Paulina put both bouquets in vases, pouring water into them from a bottle hidden behind the cross. Adjusted the garland of flowers on the fence, and a wreath of artificial greenery on the cross. She did not take the children to the cemetery, arguing that children should remember their father alive. Then a lump formed in his throat and tears filled his eyes. She did not remember how long she stood like this, all alone in this early autumn morning, mentally talking with her husband and accusing him of not keeping his promise to always be there. I looked at his photo on the cross with my head. I'll go, my favorite. Your friends will come. By dinner, they will remember. In a couple of years they will forget, but I won't be able to. I have you right here. And she raked her blouse around her chest with her fingers. Then she walked slowly along the leaf-strewn avenue. Opening the creaking gate, she threw into the trash can the old, withered flowers and headed for the bus stop. Pauline! She heard a voice behind her. His boss. Let me drive you. I also decided to skip work today. The woman got into an expensive SUV. She was almost exhausted, and a dreary look could melt the coldest heart. These are not your children, are they? Rather, are these Arthur's children? Don't answer, I already know everything. Once upon a time, even during the fighting in Chechnya, we swore an oath to each other that if one of us dies, the other will take care of his loved ones. We made a blood oath like two stupid teenagers, cutting his hands. At that time, it seemed to us such a serious ritual. And then somehow everything calmed down. In general, my heart did not pinch when he died. I don't know if he was sick. When did I feel bad? It doesn't matter now. The only important thing is that I must fulfill my promise to blood. And forgive me for that one. I'm so rude to everyone. Fool perhaps or psycho? Okay. Lyrics are everything. Here's what I'm talking about. Getting married with 3 small children is on the verge of fantasy. Well, unless some swindler gets caught or the last fool. Don't you think that I'm because of some resentment against the female gender I say this? I'm just always honest with everyone. I do not exclude that. That you can fall in love with you. You are a prominent lady, but how do you know for sure that you are loved and not used? But no way! So I offer you my hand and heart. It's not necessary to love me, but that's what you are. You will all be under my protection and I can guarantee full prosperity. Think! You're with the kids all day. I provide you, everyone is happy. We arrived. Come in. Soon. Colleagues will come to remember. I will introduce you. No! I talked to Arthur there, in the cemetery. And so I remembered. And you have a month to think. Sergei laughed. Paulina did not quite understand him. Impulse. How can you offer such a thing just for the sake of a friend's memory? But what about love, devotion? Affectionate relationship? Life to provide for yourself and your children? Sounds like it's gone. How to sell yourself more expensive. And on the other hand, she promised her husband to take care of his children. And still can't make ends meet. Paulina's life gradually improved. Children obeyed her and did not act up, as often happens at their age. We understood that apart from. Only Grandma Tosia needs Polly's mothers, but she completely gave up. The death of her son-in-law knocked her down completely. The evil boss no longer disturbed Paulina, and this was enough for her to feel comfortable at work. A month after the anniversary of Arthur's death, on a day off, when the whole cheerful family returned from a walk in the autumn park, the doorbell rang. Who's there? Paulina asked in bewilderment, for she was not expecting guests, and tolerate strangers in her home. This is Sergei, replied the rude male voice from behind the door. Come on in. Didn't expect you at all. We just came from a walk, Paulina justified herself, opening the front door. Nothing. It's you, sorry that without warning. Just drove by and decided to stop by. Get to know Arthur's children and remind you that a month has already passed and I am waiting for your answer, Sergei said quite coldly and casually, holding out a bouquet to Paulina. Bright yellow roses and a box of famous brand chocolates. Like it wasn't about the offer at all. Hands and hearts, but about the report on the results of the work. Come on in. Children in the bathroom, wash after. Walks. They are so mobile. They wallowed in fallen leaves, fed squirrels from their hands, collected leaves for herbarium. So dirty that you can write in the clothes under the shower, Paulina shared her small worries, inviting the guests to enter the living room and running around the house in search of a decent vase. Sergei sat on the sofa and looked around. How do you live in such tight quarters? 3 children and nowhere to run away? Asked the guest, changing the look of the hall, and 2 more tiny rooms, the doors to which were open. We have enough. Ivanovna and I sleep in that one. Cozy room with a balcony. The boys are in a bigger room. And in the lobby they play and watch cartoons. The kitchen, of course, is small for 4 people. But, as they say, in cramped quarters, but not offended, Paulina seemed to justify herself. At this time, the children ran out of the bath, laughing and screaming, and seemed to be dumbfounded when they saw a stranger in their house. Hello, first. The brisk but polite Igor greeted him and held out a child's hand to the stranger. Hello, fighter. And you, baby, hello. Sergei said more softly and kindly, extending his hand to Kostya, and then to Eva. My name is Uncle Serioza. I'm Dad. Friend and colleague in the army. I would really like to make friends with you, so tomorrow. That is, on Sunday, I invite you all out of town. I have a big house there and a great garden where You can develop and play as much as you want. I hope Mom Paulina will not mind. If everything is for. Then tomorrow at 9 in the morning I will pick you up, Sergei said very naturally and even fervently, getting up from the couch and heading for the exit. Hooray! How amazing! The children shouted, jumping and clapping. Thank you! We hardly go anywhere, especially out of town. It's good that the park is very close to the house, and we walk there on weekends. I don't drive. We had to sell the car and ours, why stand idle? Yes, and the money was not superfluous. And without a car, this cheerful company is hard to go somewhere. I gladly accept your offer. About a walk, Paulina answered a little shyly. Tomorrow at 9 and without delay. I am more than 5. I won't wait a minute. Sergei loudly reminded the time of departure and went out the door. Sunday flew by unnoticed and fun. Sergei's house was spacious, but not cozy. It was felt that this was a bachelor's lair and a woman's hand, represented by representatives from cleaning company, only clean here once or twice a week. But the garden was wonderful. Big, with several apple and pear trees. On some apple trees, late autumn apples still hung. And in the flower beds the last, most cold-loving flowers bloomed brightly. Tracks from the colored paving stones were wide and the children rode on them on bicycles and scooters. Then Sergei played football with them, making gates from improvised materials and inviting to increase the fun of children from neighboring houses. Uncle Serioza, can we sometimes come to you? Come? You have so much fun and a lot of space for games, Ivanovna asked at dinner. Eva, this is indecent. Paulina cut her off sternly. Well, Mom! Igorek and Kostya echoed, measuring the owner of the dwelling with a sad and pitiful look. No! Absolutely not! No weekends in my house. I insist on the full and unconditional. Moving to me for good. Having scared the kids a little with the ultimatum form of the proposal, he said. Sergei and smiling looked towards Paulina. And how is it for good? Straight for good, for good. Hey. Can Paul's mother also move in with us? We don't agree without her, Ivanovna said, a little shy. Mom, Paul! And let's move! Shouted Igor and Kostya, finishing their tea and cake from large glasses depicting scenes from Harry Potter. Well, what do you say, Mother Paulina? Children 4, I too. Hands 4. I'm bored and scared alone here, Sergei played along with the children, hoping that such an approach to an important issue will not leave Paulina a choice. Well, I do not know. It's so fast. I am not ready. Answer, Paulina answered, trying to slow down the decision-making. I reason like this, 4 votes for against 1 doubter. Moving to the next. The weekend, and I'll just prepare your rooms, Sergei offered his plan. Winking fervently at the children. Hooray! We will start today. Collect things. The children shouted excitedly. Stop! But what about the school, the pool? Workout? Paulina tried to insert at least a word, but the general noise and fuss drowned her out. Words and they hung in the air unheard. Having sorted out things after a Sunday visit to the country and having put the children to bed, Paulina decided to call Sergei and express her indignation at moving. Nobody picked up the phone for a long time, and Paulina's determination in this matter even lost a little strength. Around 10 in the evening, Sergei called back himself. "Paulina, I'm sorry I didn't answer the phone. On Sundays I have a therapeutic massage. My back, the reptile, does not give rest. But today, after outdoor games in the fresh air, it became much better, justified." Sergei for the unanswered call. "Sorry, I didn't know. I'm about moving." "Sergei, this is unrealistic now. We have school and training, a lot of things. What keeps us in the city? I can't turn everything upside down at the beginning of the school year. Those are children. They already have a difficult fate, and with them you need to somehow be more delicate, more careful," she tried. Explain the situation to Paulina, to which she received a short and uncompromising answer. "Everything will remain as it is. And the school and other components at the disposal of you and the children will be a car with a driver, and I consider the issue closed. On Friday evening, a car will come and pick you up. Necessary things, clothes, school supplies, toys. You don't need to bring any equipment or furniture. I'll take care of everything. By the way, you have been working for the last week. All the care for the children and the house will fall on your shoulders. And think again about my proposal to start a family. I hope that the move and closer acquaintance will push you to make the right decision. Now excuse me, it's late and I have to rest. Tomorrow is a busy day with lots of unfinished business. I'm used to living according to a schedule." Sergei interrupted Paulina's objections a little sharply and, "Wishing you good night," he hung up. Who did he think he was? Which? Does he have the right to control other people's lives? Dork! Satrap! Quietly, almost to herself, scolded. Paulina is the inflexible disposition of a strict boss. No matter how outraged Paulina was so quick moving, but looking at how happy the children are with the fees and the prospect of living outside the city in a huge house with a garden, calmed down a little and spent the whole week packing things in big boxes. At 7 o'clock on Friday evening, a cargo gazelle and 2 agile mail loaders drove up to the house. Half an hour loaded boxes with things into the van of the car. Sergei called back at lunchtime and warned. That seizes the family around 8 in the evening. Uncle Serias, and now who'll be your mother, Paul? And who are we to you? Can you get a dog and a cat? And then Paul's mother did not allow. She said that there was not enough space and there was no time for them. The children littered with questions while Sergei was taking them to a new place of residence. That depends on Polly's mom. She's out to marry. Does not want me to go. Can you tell her? I don't have a wife and children, but I want to. Already reduces his teeth, Sergei joked, who, oddly enough, was in an excellent mood and he constantly joked and teased Paulina with his jokes. Mom, Paul, why don't you want to marry Uncle Serioza? He's good, Dad wouldn't mind, clever Igor suddenly asked. Paulina broke out in perspiration and blushed at the unexpected question. I love your dad and I don't want another husband yet, she answered dryly. Paulina and until the end of the journey all rode in silence. The first days in Paulina's new house were not easily. She had her own room, but it was not at all near the children's bedrooms. But the children rejoiced that everyone had their own corner and did not need to share it with anyone. True, Eva. Sometimes, before going to bed, she asked Paulina to lie down with her and tell a fairy tale or a funny story. The boys, on the other hand, adored Uncle Serioza and followed him around as soon as he appeared at home. Paulina realized that children need a father, and especially boys. Sergei really became for their role models and unquestioned authority. In the evenings he checked the lessons. Like a kind, but demanding father, and in the morning he demanded composure from the children, which he himself possessed. Paulina left her job and devoted herself entirely to her children. To be completely honest, she liked living with Sergei, feeling like the mistress of this large, not entirely comfortable houses. Cooking, picking up and seeing off children in the morning and meeting after school. Succeed everywhere. Go to parent-teacher meetings and trainings, participate in the lives of children hourly, and not in fits and starts. One evening, when the first snow fell and the garden through the windows seemed like some kind of fabulous decoration, Paulina asked Sergei to allow her to change the interior of the house. Make your home more comfortable. This is your house too, so do whatever you want, just don't touch my bedroom and study, there should be only my order. I'm so used to it, Sergei answered and promised to send a good interior designer. Paulina was so carried away by home improvement that sometimes she forgot to sleep and eat. They are 100 times a day discussed with the designer the color of walls, curtains, ceilings, and all sorts of little things that bring into the house warmth and comfort. The children also rejoiced at the changes, and only Sergei pretended that he was absolutely. It doesn't matter whether the walls in the living room will be green or lilac, the image of a woman in a hat will be hang over a fireplace or a knight in armor. Once Sergei came home very late and slightly on edge. He refused supper and, not wishing the children good night, retired to his cabinet. Paulina did not inquire about the reasons for his preoccupied appearance and simply sat down to watch movie in the hall next to the kitchen on a large, leather sofa. At about 11 o'clock Sergei went down and he asked me to make him coffee and sandwiches. Something happened? Paulina asked. Slicing ham and cheese. No, everything is the same as before. I'm just tired. Waiting for your answer, and I'm tired of living in the same house with a woman who imagines herself to be such a sufferer who honors the memory of her dead husband and does not try to somehow build a relationship with another. A man who did everything for her and the children that only they desire. Yes, I know I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to change myself. Do you think it's easy for me? I sincerely want to be your support, and not only for the memory of a friend. I want to be desired, after all, to welcome me with sincere joy. Not only children, but also a woman who would share with me my worries, victories, and defeats. Yes, bed, finally. I want to be seen not as a person who provides comfortable and secure home. I waited, I didn't hurry, I was extremely polite and courteous. I don't say a word or a hint did not offend your dignity. I love children with all my heart, so why am I still not deserve your favor? What is wrong with me? Sergei almost growled, bursting into revelations. Paulina was confused and did not know what to answer. She herself understood that living next to a man in his at home and waiting for nothing to follow is stupid. Moreover, he repeatedly reminded her of that she did not respond to his proposal, but did not refuse him either. From confusion and surprise, Paulina even began to cry, quietly, almost inaudibly. Well, only without tears and tantrums. I am not. I endure. Sergei went on a rampage and even poured himself a glass of cognac from the bar. You never once said you loved me. You say it to the kids every day. But never to me. If you think that for a woman the main thing is prosperity, comfort and children who are happy with everything, then you are wrong. Why did you bring us here if you knew in advance that you would not love me? What is this all for? I didn't want to go. Why did you win over the children and accustom them to a good life? Because he wanted to win their mother's cold heart. For them to learn to perceive me as a friend, and in the long run as a father. What did I do wrong? Sergei almost shouted, pouring cognac into a square glass. Let's calm down and talk about it. Tomorrow, Paulina offered, gathering herself into a fist, and disappeared behind the doors of her bedroom. In the morning, Sergei behaved calmly, as if there was no night conversation. Played with children. Drew funny faces on bread with jam and boiled condensed milk, ate with them in a race. Paulina smiled, looking at this cheerful fuss. So, today I will arrive from work early and we will all. Let's go build a snow hill together. I'll buy ice cubes for everyone and tomorrow we'll ride, with. Sergei announced with childish enthusiasm and, throwing a piece of bread with jam into his mouth, ran out into the street. Mom, why is Uncle Serioza so good, but you don't want to marry him? Eva asked, wiping plump lips stained with jam with a napkin. They marry men, but they don't marry, smart little Igor corrected his sister. Mom still loves Dad and we also love Dad very much, but we also love Uncle Serioza. Is it so? It is forbidden? The romantic and quiet Kostya clarified. It is possible, probably. I love Uncle Serioza. As a friend who takes care of us, Paulina answered thoughtfully and began to collect the children for school. In the evening, they all built a hill together and filled it with water from a hose. The night was frosty and by morning the hill froze thoroughly. In the evening of the next day, the whole cheerful family rode on the built attraction and sat down to supper at the beginning of the ninth. Children! They fell asleep right at the table and Sergei carefully, like a priceless load, carried them to the bedrooms. Then he helped Paulina clean the dishes and sat down to watch some stupid series. I need to tell you something, Sergei said almost in a whisper and pulled out a trousers, a small, velvet box. Be my wife. I promise to love and respect you. I promise to take care of you and the children. Paulina seemed to have fallen into a stupor and was simply silent, looking at the wedding ring inside the box. Promise you'll never leave me. Promise. Swear. Everyone I loved left me, father, mother, husband. I'm so tired of losing that I'm afraid. Love someone else. Paulina answered through tears and fell on her interlocutor's chest. I can't promise you that. But the fact that I will not leave you for good. Well, that's what I promise. Sergei said with a light, sad smile and hugged Paulina. They spent that night together, succumbing to feelings and desire to possess each other. Tender kisses. And Sergei's hugs again revived in Paulina the desire to love and be loved. It's already morning, and we hardly slept, Sergei whispered, winding the curly lock of his bride around his finger. I'm so relaxed that I'm afraid to get up. I think I'll fall, Paulina said, smiling. We will now collect the children to school. But we won't go anywhere ourselves and will lie in bed until dinner, said Sergei and began to dress to wake the children. What about your job? You are very strict. The boss who is never late or misses work, the woman laughed. Picking up your clothes on the floor. Do you know why I'm so strict? This is because I did not have a beloved woman. And now I will begin to change, I will. Soft and you will all weave ropes out of me. The still strict boss laughed, slowly but surely, turning into a good family man. The wedding was played in March in a small, cozy restaurant outside the city with a small number of guests. How tired I am, Paulina told her husband when she and her children returned from the celebration to their cozy home. I'll put the children to bed myself, and you take a bath and lie down, the newly made husband suggested and went upstairs to fight the restless boys and the capricious Eva. Everything calmed down barely. They didn't want to go to bed. He promised to take them to water park, only after that they scattered on the beds. So take out your bathing suit, wife, Sergei said cheerfully and hugged his wife. This is without me. In my position it is not. Best pastime. You yourself somehow, my wife answered mysteriously. I didn't understand. Do you mean, I want to say that if a man and a woman love each other, then from this there are such situations. Hooray! I will be a father again. The most real. I thought I couldn't have children because of the injury. God! You took me to heaven only. What? I love you so much. How I love you all. Sergei almost shouted, hugging his wife. Sinechka was born on a bright September morning. Weight 200, height 52 centimeters. Both are healthy, the nurse said on the phone, and Sergei felt vulnerable for the first time. Tears of joy welled up in my eyes, and warmth spread throughout my body. I wanted to sing, laugh, eccentric and hug with every passerby. But the children were waiting at home. Their children. Now 4. Let there be more. May there be many of them and laughter always reign in the house. Noise, a small glove compartment, heaps of sliders and bottles, and also happiness. Lots of happiness.